most people have no idea how much they actually need in order to retire.
And it's usually not the number you think.
So where should a person start when trying to calculate how much money they need to retire?
Well, there's three separate areas that I typically like
Okay.
to dive into.
Okay.
And the first one's always expenses.
Expenses.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about how much we need, the first thing we talk about is need.
Yeah. Because most people don't have a written budget. And they'll sit there and just kind of operate off this cash flow thing. Around this area, especially, you get a lot of folks that can just work overtime. They need more money, they just work overtime. And so they don't really sit down and figure out what they actually spend. It's just when they start running dry on funds, they just work some more. Right. Well, when you retire, you can, but most people don't want to do that, right? So
Yeah, once you kind of walk away from working and you start sitting down, you want to stay sitting down.
yeah, and even when they are calculating their expenses, they miss some things that are going to fall off once they do retire,
Right.
or may even get it added on. Healthcare costs before you're age 65, before you can actually get on Medicare. If you're retiring at 55, you got to figure out how you're going to pay for insurance.
Yeah.
During that decade, basically. And it's not cheap.
Hey, and not just insurance like that, but also what about long-term care insurance?
Long-term
It's
care.
a major, significant impact on whether or not somebody retires with success as they get towards the end of their runway.
Right. A lot of people sit there and will think of nursing home or something like that. And it's not just nursing home. It's like your care when you're 80-something years old and somebody has to, while you're rehabbing, pick you up and bathe you and things like this. So that can happen. And then travel, how much you're going to travel, how often.
Yeah, because when you retire, presumably you can have a little more time, you can have a little more freedom, a little more flexibility. How much is that expression of freedom going to cost? Vacations, trips, new hobbies I want to start. When I'm hearing all of these things, I'm like, most people, they're really good at what they do. They're really good at their job. But their job is not financial planning.
Right.
You know, they're a great operator in the refinery. They're a great school teacher, great mechanic, but they're not a financial planner. And they don't necessarily know about these expenses that are going to come up because they haven't traveled that road before. I mean, you're not retirement age until you're retirement age. And then that can be too late.
On the inverse, they'll sit there and throw things into the expense number that are going to go away.
Yeah,
like
they're going to disappear.
Saving for retirement.
Right, because why do you need to contribute to retirement when you are actually retired? Now, so what are some things that can be done?
Yeah, one of the things you can do, obviously, is have a written budget.
Yeah.
But for a lot of people, it can be overwhelming, especially if you don't have like a worksheet because you miss some stuff. Again, financial advisors typically have some kind of a budget calculation worksheet. You probably find one on the internet, but still you can miss some things. So one exercise I like to give people is to track your monthly expenses for 3 to 5 months and then take an average.
Right.
And that gives you a ballpark average of what you're spending on a typical month.
Right. And what your standard of living is now. And then also when you're talking to your advisor, you should really start to have in your mindset, okay, so is the standard of living I have right now the standard of living that I plan on having when I retire? Am I going to want to increase that standard? Am I going to back off of that standard because I've got expenses that fall off?
Most people aren't going to back off of their standard of living.
Yeah, and especially not immediately.
Right.
Not until the body starts to slow down and it gets a little harder to go on trips just physically. Most people are probably not going to back off of their spending too much. They're free.
Yeah. And so having well-defined goals is really important so that you know what you're figuring out for expenses.
So not a broad goal like, well, I'd like to go on a trip. That's kind of broadly stated. Maybe something a little more specific like, I want to be able to go on vacation with my wife maybe we want to take our kids, but we plan on going on a vacation every year. And I want to spend or be ready to spend $5,000 on a vacation every year until I'm, let's say, 80. That's a specific.
Exactly. And do some research on the types of costs that are going to change as you approach and as you get into retirement, right?
Okay, so the first main area that we need to address when we're talking about how much money we need in order to be financially independent or to retire is we need to have an accurate forecast of our expenses.
Right.
The second area that we want to really focus on is now we've got our expenses. Do we have the resources that we're going to need to cover those expenses?
Right. And so you have to consider all the different streams of income first that you're going to have coming in. Do you have any annuities? Do you have pension from work? What's your Social Security? Do you even have Social Security? Some people don't.
You have some investment accounts that are throwing off some dividends, throwing off some income that you're going to get off of that. Is that going to be dependable year to year? Or are you in some investment classes that are maybe a little too risky?
Yeah.
You know?
And are those resources going to last you the rest of your life? That's like the number one fear most of the time when surveyed year after year is, am I going to run out of money before I die?
That's right.
It's a real fear. So to determine what you really need resource-wise to fill that gap between your expenses and your income, how much money am I going to have to save? That's the question.
Right.
And most people use this 4% rule. I've seen a lot of advisors use the 4% rule. And on the surface, there's nothing specifically wrong, but it can give somebody a false sense of security if you're just going off that number. And ultimately, it depends. How many market cycles are you going to go through?
Okay.
Ups and downs of the market, because it really matters more on the downside, right? How far things are down when you're sitting there pulling money out. I like to give that analogy of whenever you're saving for retirement, you're putting logs on the fire, you're giving it fuel, and that fire's just getting bigger and bigger and bigger. But when you retire, you're trying to keep that fire as big as stinking possible, but you're pulling the fuel, you're pulling the logs away. Again, it's not just a 4% rule per se. It's how many market cycles you're going to go through. What are your spending needs now versus your spending needs later? What kind of goals do you have? But these are all going to be factors that contribute to that. What I do like to use is kind of a range. Like, you're not going to really nail it down and just kind of get an estimate. Use a range.
Right.
Somewhere between 2 and 5%.
So a better approach, just to be a little more nuanced, to really understand the factors that are at play. Like you give the analogy of the fire that's burning. Sometimes the market's doing great and that fire is stoked and it's burning, and you don't feel it as much when you start pulling a log off of there. Sometimes the market's a little down, the fire's not burning as bright. If you start pulling logs off, and big logs at that point, you're kind of hurting yourself a little bit. And so
chances of you running out of money goes way up, right?
It does.
More opportunities you give the market to do that, which is why I say when you're at 55 or so to about 60 or younger, something like that, 2% if you're really young, 3% if you're close to 60-ish, that's reasonable. That'll probably get you by for a while. And then as time goes on, you reassess, did we do better than we thought we could have? And then adjust from there. 4% if you're 65 to 70 years old, 4% is probably just fine.
Yeah.
And you start getting to 75 to 80, the runway's getting a little shorter for you. Unfortunately, we're not going to live forever.
Right.
You can get away 5%, maybe even a little north of that, depending on some factors, health.
And we've talked about this before, that it's unwise to put a cookie cutter approach to this, because 4% of a $4 million retirement is a lot different than 4% of a $500,000 retirement.
Right.
So you have to take into consideration, what is this person's situation? And then, hey, the standard of living that a person has might be very different. And so, again, I can't stress it enough. One of the things that's so helpful about having a good team in your corner a financial advisor.
Having a written financial plan.
That's right.
I mean, it's going to take all of that stuff into account besides just throwing a percentage on it to begin with, right? Because everyone's situation's different.
That's right. That's right. One of the things that I really enjoy about us working up financial plans is helping to find gaps in someone's financial situation.
What do you mean?
So what I mean is this. So you take where a person is now. Let's say we have a husband and a wife. They got a small child, and let's say they're in their 30s. Okay. What happens if, let's say, 10 years pass, and let's say the husband is the breadwinner? What happens if he passes away at 40? Well, it depends, right?
Yeah. We're all Superman, right?
That's right. Nothing happens to us.
That's how our kids view us.
But unfortunately, things happen.
Yeah.
This has happened to some folks, and it really puts them in a very difficult financial situation because maybe they're young, didn't have life insurance.
Y'all had somebody at the church.
We did.
Yeah.
So, and when you get stuck like that, it's just hard. And what's the likelihood of running out of money at that point? You know, when the main breadwinner passes and there's not life insurance. But then you have other situations where, you know, hey, these people are super conscientious. They are very risk averse. And this person's got a $5 million life insurance policy. They're paying a decent amount for this every month. And then you actually run the financial plan. And one of the issues that you find is you're paying for too much life insurance.
Yeah.
Maybe you don't need that much. And the money that you're paying for this extra life insurance, you could be investing that, and that can be making you actual money. And then your plan is a lot more secure. You know, we run these financial plans out all the way until a person is 85. Sometimes we'll even push it to 90, 95 because life expectancies, they've gone up. And when you start running people's financial plan out that far, there's some other gaps that you find.
Yeah.
Some gaps that can help them that maybe they're not addressing it right now. When do they need to purchase long-term care insurance? Is it wise and prudent to purchase long-term care insurance at 40?
No, most time they're not even going to sell it to you when you're that young.
Unfortunately, we won't be able to provide coverage.
I see.
Yeah. But when you have that plan, as time passes, you have your review that you go through when you go to your advisor, and they say, hey, we're getting up on 50, we're getting up on 55. Now may be the time to go ahead and start purchasing that long-term care insurance because we can show them with the math that we're running that in the event that this happens and you or your spouse go into long-term care or have that, man, it could devastate your financial plan. But for this small expense, you can really shore things up.
Higher probability.
Higher probability of success. That's what we want for our family.
Yep. And once you have the expenses figured out, and once you know, okay, these are the assets I'm going to fill that gap with, then you got to figure out how am I going to distribute that stuff out in order to keep more of it.
Okay, so now we come to how these withdrawals impact our taxes.
Right.
So that's all part of the plan.
Right.
Is it optimal to withdraw money from this IRA right now or wait and withdraw from this account? Is it more responsible to live off of this IRA for these first few years, 5, 7 years in retirement until I get to my maximum Social Security benefit, and then I activate that?
Or even better yet, you come up with some kind of strategy where you can keep your taxes lower so that you can get money out of that IRA so that if you end up not running out of money later on and are able to pass something on to your children, for example, that more of it's going to stay with them and not go to Uncle Sam.
Right.
So what can be done about this, right? That's the question. Do some research on the various types of accounts, how Social Security benefits are taxed, how those things play off of one another. Having a fiduciary financial advisor that's well-versed in income distribution planning, having a certified financial planner professional, someone to be able to help guide you through it can be highly beneficial.
You've been doing this for a long time, Eddie. I'm curious, do you have any examples, maybe just one, of someone who, we'll keep them anonymous, but someone who almost made a significant tax error. You told me about this one time about they almost made a very significant error trying to build their dream home.
Yeah, this was a while back. So when I first started working at Tri-Oak,
Okay.
we had a couple that had a smaller amount of their net worth with us because most of their money were in retirement accounts.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And they didn't have the option of moving into that to us or anything like that, but we had built their plan. But they had a couple $100,000 with us in a brokerage account that they were trying to grow for several years.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just saving to buy land to build their dream home eventually. So a couple of years before they retired, they reached the goal for the land. They found the land. They closed that brokerage account out. They went out and bought it. All that was perfect. A couple of years later, they get ready to retire. So they call us, hey, we're getting ready to retire. We need to come up with a plan on what we're going to do with these IRAs, income distribution, all this. And, oh, yeah, we got to figure out how we're going to pay for this house that we want to build. And the husband, he was just dead set, I'm not carrying any debt into retirement. Zero. And it's just stuff he's read, stuff he's seen, talked to other people, research he's done on his own. I'm just going to pay for this house and be done with it. His plan at the time and what he wanted to bounce off of us was, I'm going to take the $750,000 that I need to build this home. I'm just going to take it out of my 401k at the time because he was under the impression that I don't have to pay taxes or penalties on this money at all because it's for a house. So some little nuance rules, didn't read them in depth, really misunderstood or whatever. But we showed him that $750,000 was actually going to cost him about $1.2 million after taxes if he were to just pull that out and pay for the house. Well, they had a $2 million net worth at the time. That was going to be the assets that we were talking about that was going to generate the income they needed, and they needed more money than what was going to be left over in order to live.
So they had $2 million net worth at that point. You were actually able to save them a quarter of their net worth, some $440,000. Oh my goodness!
So the extra it would have cost them.
Were they relieved to find that out?
He's still a little nervous about taking debt into retirement, and even today we have conversations around: does it make sense to hold on to this debt? But they're doing fine.
But what kind of anxiety would have been produced had that tax bill shown up?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, he would just gotten that. That would have been a surprise. He would have had to pay it. So by stopping and at least asking, and let's going through the drill of, does it make sense? Can we do this and still afford to get the income we need to live on?
Yeah.
Right. And in this case, the answer was no, absolutely not, because you're going to run out of money.
Right.
So,
Man, such a blessing. So, are there some additional things that people might need to take into consideration when they're planning on retiring?
How long do we have?
How long do you got?
I think what you're going to do with your time.
Okay.
Most of us aren't going to sit on a couch and just kind of waste away.
There's some. There's some people who would like to.
Yeah.
Some people who try.
Most people aren't going to do that.
No,
right?
most people don't. Yeah. So then you figure out, what do I want to do? Do I want a hobby?
Travel.
Want to travel? Do
volunteer?
Maybe I want to have a job.
Yeah.
I want to do something
second
else.
career.
Second career. A lot of people end up doing things like that.
Start your own business.
Okay, so some things to consider when retiring. So what am I going to do? How about this question? How long am I going to live? What about longevity?
Oh, yeah. So many people discount how long they're going to live. And men are the worst. Yeah.
Pride doesn't have anything to do with it, does it?
We're the worst.
That's right.
Well, it's not just pride. It's just like, well, daddy didn't live that long, so I'm not going to live that long either. It's like, okay, Lord knows and you don't.
Yeah.
There's a statistic that we follow, and it moves around from year to year. So I'm just rounding a little bit. There's about a 20% chance that one out of a married couple, one of them is going to live to age 95.
Wow.
And so most of the guys, when they hear that, they're just kind of like, yeah, 20%, that's not that high. Daddy didn't live that long. I'm not going to make it that far. Okay. So
say that again, 20%.
20% chance that one out of the married couple, either the husband or the wife's going to live to age 95. Now, after that, the probabilities dovetail way off. So I don't run plans out further than those emergency things.
But Eddie, 20% is low.
Yeah, well, if I gave you a gun and it had 5 bullet hole chambers in it, you just open it up, slide a bullet in one, spin it, hold it to your head, are you going to pull that trigger?
No.
It's the same math.
Yeah.
So if you're not going to take a chance with that, why would you do it with your livelihood?
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, probabilities matter. 20% matters when you're dealing with the ability to eat in retirement, the ability to have a nice home, be able to take care of yourself. You don't want to take that chance.
Yeah, exactly.
You want to make sure you plan for longevity. And if you're wrong, then you get to leave some money for some people who are behind you.
It's somebody else's problem.
So in summary, I would say having a written financial plan is going to be the most accurate way to determine if you're going to be financially independent in the future. If you want to know exactly where you stand, let's map that out together. We can help you build that plan. We can work those things up so that you can feel confident when you do retire and stay retired.
Comment the word appointment below or just follow the link in the description.
You can reach us there through the website and set something up.